The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, sorry. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic, in a special edition of the following program. Tonight, we're going to have a call-in show, and I'm going to be giving priority to those of you who are in locals. I am showing love to the diggers because the diggers have shown love to me. It's like a reciprocal relationship. You guys in Rumble, you can fund locals too. You can. Trust me. It's not that hard. It's at goodlogic.locals.com. How am I going to give love to them is in this call-in show. I'm actually going to have people who like put in their number. Like you're going to have people I'm leaving my call waiting on, like my do not disturb on. And those of you who want to call, what I want you to do is this. Put in to like the chat that just like the last 4 digits of your phone number. When you ring me, I'll try to call you back. So I'm not going to see the call. You'll ring in. I'll see your number come up there. I'll be like, oh, okay. That's divine right there, spirit, or that's Cedar Rose, whoever it is. And this way I should give a little love back to the locals and encourage people to say, hey, come on. It's time. I just came up with this like 5 minutes ago. It's like, oh, that's totally brilliant. I got to do that. So that's my love to the locals. There you go, locals folk. There you go. All you diggers. There you go. You want to be in locals. Goodlogic.locals.com. Okay, topics that we're covering tonight. Because one of the things I want to tell you, a quick story. There was a guy, I think his name is Bob Kemp. I think that was his name, from Sporting News Radio. The date is January 3rd, 1999. This is a true story. January 3rd, 1999. And my wife is in labor. Okay? This was a crazy day. My wife is in labor. And it's a Sunday. Now I'm thinking everything here is gonna be totally normal. This is our second kid. I already have a daughter. This is my second kid, and she's going through she's in the labor delivery room there. And I know, like, from the first one took like, I don't know, 20 hours or so. I was like, okay, this is gonna take like 14 hours or so. And I'm spending all day with her, hanging out. We're watching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I rented for her because that was what we watched when she gave her the first time. And we thought it was pretty funny. So we said, let's watch that again, a little waxing sentimental. And the day is going by. Now, I'm still a smoker at this point in my life, as I would remain for many decades. But let's put that aside for a moment. And so at a certain point during the day in the afternoon, I go out for a cigarette. And as I'm coming back in, I'm thinking to myself, holy hell, today is like, there's like a NFL, there's a playoff game. The Packers playing against the 49ers, 2 powerhouse teams, Brett Favre versus Steve Young. And I'm thinking to myself, that game should be like nearly over. Let me go check it up. So as I'm walking back to the labor delivery room, I see this big empty room there, the huge TV set. So I flip it on, I turn it on. Sure enough, there's Brett Favre throwing a touchdown with like a minute and a half left to take like a 4-point lead. And I'm like, oh wow, this is like the best part of the game. So I stayed and I'm watching Steve Young marching that team down the field. Zip, bam, 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 bam. Final play of the game. Hits Terrell Owens over the middle, 20-yard touchdown. Boom, game over. The Niners win. I was like, this is so classic. Favre, he never milks the clock properly. There's enough time. I can't believe that he just like sort of like, he's thinking he's celebrated. Yeah, that's right. Those aren't pillows. That's right, fans, from that. Yeah, that's it. Those aren't pillows. Yeah. So bottom line is, I come back to labor delivery room. My wife gives birth. It was a really difficult delivery, far and away the most difficult one she ever had. I'm not going to get into the whole details there. I was scared for her life at a certain point. It was a very scary delivery. But sure enough, she gives birth. I have a son, and hung out with her for a couple of hours. And I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I'm going back to my house. We had left my daughter with, she was like a year and a half or something like that. We had left her with one of her grandparents. So I come back to my house and I'm listening to this sporting news radio because I used to listen to sports talk radio all the time. And there's this guy there, Bob Kemp. He was great. And the reason I'm bringing this story up now is because when he had his call-in shows, he kept topics. It wasn't just call in, talk about whatever the heck is on your mind. There were like always a handful of topics that he would lay out at the top of the show. If you want to talk about one of these topics, call in to talk about any of these 3 topics, 4 topics, 5 topics. That's what he would spell out there. And that way you sort of had a feel for what's happening. Well, sure enough, I'm driving back from the game. I'm driving back from the game. I'm such a bad dad. I'm driving back from the delivery. And I get back home and I'm listening to him and I can't sleep. It's the middle of the night. I can't sleep. So I call in there. And I know that he's someone who could be kind of a jerk to people who are ignorant. Like you're calling in, you don't really know everything that happened. So I wanted to give him background to explain to him why it is that I didn't really watch the entire game. I only saw the last 5 minutes. So I wanted him to understand that, hey, I didn't watch the whole game. I had a pretty good reason for not watching the whole game, but these are my thoughts about the last 5 minutes there. So I started off and I said, hey, Bob, this is Joe from Flushing. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch the whole game. My wife gave birth today, but I just wanted to weigh in on something. And he goes, wait a second. Your wife gave birth today? And you're calling my show? So I was like, hey, come on. I got my priorities in order. Well, sure enough, a couple days later, I'm listening to Sport News Radio, and I hear this conversation. This guy's saying, hey, yeah, my wife gave birth today. And that question is asked, and it was a replay of me. They had cut that and used it for a promo because right after I said, hey, I got my priorities in order, the voiceover goes, get your priorities in order, Bob Kemp, weeknights, which is great. Okay, anyway, the bottom line here is, though, I think the format he did for his call-in was actually like the best way to do that sort of thing. I don't just want people calling in and talking to me about how their Aunt Tilly has 6 cats and they're hoping that she gets a 7th cat, and I don't know, maybe the 7th cat will start fighting with the other. I don't need to hear that garbage. Okay, I don't need to hear that. I just want you to stay on topic. So I'm keeping you directed on topic. All right, that's what I got for you. I want you all on topic. So with that, here are our topics. First topic I want to address. Where are you? Oh God, that's not what I wanted. Okay. First topic that I want to talk about, which I think is a really interesting topic. I was at that game. It was a great game. It was in Candlestick, right? I think it was in Candlestick. I'm pretty sure it was in San Francisco. And I think back then they played in Candlestick. But I'm not sure about that. First topic I want to talk about. Dick Durbin wants to put illegal aliens into our military. You heard that correctly. He wants illegal aliens in our military. So I want to get your thoughts on that. In fact, let's give a little clip here to give you some context. Dun, dun, dun.
The migrant crisis is an abject catastrophe, overwhelming Border Patrol and our cities alike, with zero signs of slowing, thanks to our semi-catatonic commander in grief.
For the 3rd day in a row, more than 3,000 migrants crossed into the
Few migrants coming across, whole bunch
Texas within a 24-hour period.
Meanwhile, Senate Republicans have blocked a bill that would have provided aid to Israel and Ukraine, demanding the White House agree to more funding for border security.
We need funding for security.
Senate Democrats have a grand idea. Send illegal immigrants to the military. What? Watch this.
Do we need that? Do you know what the recruiting numbers are at the Army and the Navy and the Air Force? They can't reach their quotas each month. They can't find enough people to join our military forces.
It's weird because they're so tolerant of the trans community. You would think that that has now opened up a brand new demographic for who they could, bring in there. All those trans folks, the millions and millions and millions of trans folks who are, and the ones who have all those kids who have two moms who they're pitching toward. You would think that all of them, that would just be, they'd be flooding right into the army right there. They'd be like, oh man, make me a Marine. It's weird. It's weird how that hasn't panned out like that. That's what I would have thought would happen.
And there are those who are undocumented who want the chance to serve and risk their lives for this country. Should we give them a chance? I think we should.
1 second. My youngest over here, whom I love dearly, needs my attention. What was that?
Mommy wants you downstairs
for 1 second. Mommy wants me downstairs. Right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just whatever. We'll see when you come down.
Okay. I'll be right back. Uno momento. Yeah. So there you go. I need one of those background things there. Where were we? Okay. Let's go back to Dick Durbin here.
Is to the military. What? Watch this.
Do we need that? Do you know what the recruiting numbers are at the Army and the Navy and the Air Force? They can't reach their quotas each month. They can't find enough people to join our military forces.
Yep.
And there are those who are undocumented who want the chance to serve and risk their lives for this country. Should we give them a chance? I think we should.
I don't. Let's bring in a man who knows a thing or two about the armed forces, Army veteran. And
so my question for you, I'm not going to give away their position on this, although you probably can guess. But my first question, so one topic I have is, do you think we should allow illegal aliens into our military? Yes or no? I understand you probably don't like the number of illegal aliens that we have. Do you think we should? You want to talk to me about that? Yes, we should. No, we shouldn't. I don't know. I'm an illegal alien. I'm surrounded by illegal aliens. They're all telling me to call in and say, yes, we should. I'm married to an illegal, whatever it is you got. Whatever it is. Should we? I'm seeing a whole bunch of no's. Youngest says, Daddy, wrapped around their finger. She does. They were wise. They sent her up. Because if anyone else had come up here, I would have been like, get the hell out of my room. But they sent her up, and I'd be like, oh, of course, honey. I'm so owned by her. I really am. Anyone else, I would have been like, what do you do? Why did you even walk into my room? And with her, I'm like, I can't do anything. All right, so that's the first topic. Should we allow illegal aliens into our military? Which I think is interesting. I think it's a more interesting question. The other topic I want to talk about is this here. This topic here. You might not want to talk about illegal aliens in the military. You might be like, I don't care. I have no opinion on that. But I do want to. So the other topic you might want to talk with me about is this, that was raised by Mr. Michael Knowles, who made a whole big stink about it.
There was a scene that took place in Congress this week that, even with my low opinion of Ivy League administrators, exceeded even my lowest expectations.
It's a little fast.
This would be the scene in which Ivy League university presidents hemmed and hawed over whether calling for the genocide of the Jews explicitly constitutes harassment.
At Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today, calling for the genocide.
Calling for the genocide is a context-dependent issue. Okay. That was what she testified.
Of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it is, if the
yes or no?
If the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate?
It's a pretty funny question. At that point, it's pretty harassing. Once you're engaging in genocide, that's pretty harassing.
Rules of bullying and harassment, yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
No, you've got, this is the line. It's not even just the lady from Penn. It's multiple university presidents. You've got multiple representatives of the Ivy League here. They say, well, you know.
Harvard, Penn, and MIT they had representatives from.
What's genocide? One man's genocide is another man's freedom fighter, right? I guess that's sort of what they're implying. I'm all for nuance. I'm truly all for nuance. And I'm all for protecting a wide range of debate at universities. I do actually like that. But what we're seeing here, the reason these university presidents can't answer this is not because they hate the Jews. I don't know, maybe they do hate the Jews, but maybe they don't. I don't think that's what is motivating their answer. Right now, go to MetaShare.
And now he has a whole advertisement going on, or two advertisements for a whole bunch of time, and I don't care about that stuff.
Is not just that they're trapped by their students, which they are. They're very afraid of upsetting the students because the students run the show now at the universities. What they're trapped by primarily is their own free speech rhetoric. That's the thing. And if it were a different issue being discussed here, the Republicans would be on their side.
It's not their own free speech rhetoric. I think he's totally wrong about this. I think his call on this is totally wrong.
Because they're saying, look, you can say whatever you want at a university, and we support free speech.
No, that's that's not their own free speech rhetoric. It's the fact that it's the fact that they know it's more that they're trapped by their own students. So now they're trying to use free speech rhetoric in order to justify that our students, why it is that they're embarrassed that they're trapped by their students. They're not trapped by their rhetoric. They're trying to hide behind free speech, which they never really believed in the first place.
Know that that's bogus. That's the problem here. If they actually held to that rule, I would give them credit. I'm not sure I would agree with them. I actually wrote a whole book about how I disagree with free speech absolutism called Speechless, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds. Do I have a bell on the road? Is there a bell here? No. Okay. All right. That's fine. We'll have to bring a bell on the road next time. They are saying that we don't, unless you actually commit the action of genocide, that would not violate our policy. And then they kind of knew that was too extreme, so they're kind of walking it back. And the reason they're trying to protect.
Okay, so the next topic I basically want to talk about is this. Many of you, I'm sure, are free speech absolutists, hardcore free speech absolutists. Do you think that people chanting and calling for genocide is something that anyone, put government aside, but private entities should be clamping down to stop in any circumstance? Or do you, if you're a free speech absolutist, you'd be like, hey, that's free speech. If you believe that that's something that's part of free speech, I want to hear from you. If you think that if you believe in free speech and this is an exception, I want to hear from you. By the way, the call-in number is 972-454-0703. It's in the description below. In fact, I'm even going to go one step further. I'm going to pin it to the top of this chat here. And I'm going to put it in Rumble because I can do that. I can do that. So this is me. And I'm going to put it in Rumble. This is me pinning it in chat. 972-454. Now, if some of you may have called in, I haven't checked my Google. I have it open, but I have it on Do Not Disturb. So I don't know if it rings and I don't hear it, or if you don't get a ring. But I do see calls. I do see numbers log in there. And I'll tell you right now, first place I'm going to look is in my locals chat. And anyone tells me, hey, I tried calling, these are my last 4 digits, I'll call those people back first. That's how I plan on doing this. Show the love to my diggers. All right, so this is I hate the heart thing. Pin message. That's the number right there. And for you, can I pin over here? Am I able to pin this? No, I can't pin it. But yeah, Doug has put it up there. There you go. I'll just put it in here also just to confirm that you got it right. 703. All right, there you go. And if you can smash that thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. So that's the second topic. Third topic is related to Hunter Biden's getting hit with tax charges and what you think of that. I haven't gone through them yet, to be honest with you. I pulled up an article about them, but I haven't really gone through the tax charges. I know he's been hit with 9 charges. This came out in the last couple of hours. He's facing 9 criminal charges right now. Bad Weather Biker says French Foreign Legion gives citizenship to France for serving. I think we could do the same. Since the Marine Corps is our expeditionary force, let them earn their citizenship there. So you agree with Dick Durbin. You think it's a good idea. Bring them into our military and let them earn their citizenship by basically serving. It's an interesting thought. Tianina became a YouTube member. God bless you. Welcome to the following. Tianina. Beautiful. Great job. The following is not a cult type of cult at all. It's like the uncultiest of all cults. So there's no self-mutilation, no harming others, no injections, no spaceships, no squirrel beheadings, none of that. Very little goat blood. Very, very little, shockingly little goat blood. I get complaints frequently about the lack of goat blood. I get that a lot. Is it a ploy to create a military police state using illegal immigrants against actual U.S. citizens? It is an interesting question, right? I mean, when considering that, like, are they going to make their own division of like would they be integrated? Would they be like special things like, like Hessians that we bring here to fight for us? But like the Latino Hessians? I don't know. Maybe you would only agree with bringing them in here if it was structured in a certain way, that they're either integrated or not integrated. And which way is better? Is it better if you just have whole large swaths, whole units of illegal aliens? Or is it better if you, basically pluck one here, one there, one here, one there? It's good questions. Matthew, naturalization through military service already exists, but a permanent resident status, green card, is required. Well, it sounds like Dick Durbin thinks he's introducing something novel. Maybe it's absent the green card. So even if you don't have a green card, you can still attain that. Because green card would give you entry. So this is basically saying, all right, well, why do we need a green card? Interesting question. All right, so number is 972-454-0703. It's 972-454-0703. I see I had a couple of people who called in here. Let me see if any of you are in locals. Let me see that. Worcestershire says, I'm an absolutist. It's not 1A to incite violence. Also says, train enemy to effectively fight within your own army. It does seem a little bit weird, right? It does seem a little weird. I'm seeing that Grifty tried calling. So I'm going to give Grifty a call back. I'm going to give Grifty a call back. All right. Grifty, I'm about to call you. And I also see that Joe tried calling me and an original tried calling. All right. So let's get it. Let's get it started. I don't see you having called in an original. I'm looking at my list here now of people who have called, and I see Joe's number, and I also see Grifty's. So Joe said it first, I think, right? I think Joe said it first. So I'm going to give Joe a call quick. We're going to try and keep these calls like 5 minutes or less. So make your point. Let's go and get in. I'm calling you now, Joe. You guys can hear this, right? You can hear it.
Hey, Joe.
Hey. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear you. I think
testing 1 2.
I'm pretty sure they can hear you. All right. Yeah, they're saying that they got you. All right. Beautiful. What's on your mind, Joey boy? Which topic you want to cover?
You can't allow people who've entered the country or remained in the country in such a way where they've broken the law into the military service.
Why not?
I think it's ethically wrong. You've committed a crime, right? And for that, there's got to be some sort of penance, some sort of punishment. You can't get the opportunity or the honor of serving in the military for the country who you snuck into. Now, once you're here, if you've committed a crime, and you've done your time and you're otherwise here lawfully and things are good, there are waivers for all sorts of things. Guys who've gotten DUIs or maybe they got caught smoking weed when they were in high school, that sort of stuff. Those guys are usually.
Let me ask you this, Joe. Why would the crime of sneaking in the country be worse than someone who, let's say, committed murder?
Well, that's quite an extreme. Those who committed murder, as far as I know, are not eligible to enlist.
Well, if they serve their time for murder, let's say, and now they want to enlist.
Yeah, anybody with a felony can enlist. So we got to come down a notch. Because currently the status today, as I understand it, and I sent you a couple of things for Chauffeur. But anyway, if you've committed a felony, you can enlist. But if you've committed a lesser crime, there are waivers for some of those lesser crimes, which sort of makes sense, right? Because you don't want to bar the kid who did something foolish as a young adult necessarily, especially if it wasn't serious. But what we're talking about is violating the sanctity of the country on purpose.
Patricia Johnson says, I'm a veteran. This is so wrong. Current military would be dishonored and demoralized by this political accommodation. Just no. I think the impact that this could potentially have on our current service members is definitely a massive factor to consider. I think that's to me that rings as being incredibly significant. Patricia, if that sentiment is shared by a significant percentage of our current military, to me that would be that's a big deal. That's a very, very big deal.
I saw an article today. We're going to find out tomorrow that the DoD is going to release their new higher tenure standards. You have to make a certain rank or you get kicked out, right? You have to make a certain rank by a certain number of years.
Okay.
The old rule has been E5, 20 years. You didn't make E5 after you couldn't do a 21st year.
What does that translate into in rank? E5.
The staff sergeant in the Air Force, a sergeant, a buck sergeant in the Army, petty officer, second class in the Navy.
Okay.
But those are supposed to change, according to this article I read tonight. Those are supposed to change tomorrow. They're going to add 2 more years. So now the E5 at 19 years, who thinks he's going to be put out next year, is now eligible to stay to 22 years.
Right for the next couple of years.
And pop on orders, because he's eligible to get orders to go someplace he wouldn't have otherwise been eligible to get orders to go.
Okay, but here's the question that I have. I mean, let's assume that sneaking into the country illegally is a misdemeanor. Why do you think that this, and I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just want to sort of flesh this out to sort of get a better feeling on it. Why do you think that that's a worse crime than some other misdemeanor, like a lower level burglary type of thing? Like what makes that what makes that something that is if they serve time first, would that then make it acceptable?
Right. There is a path to redemption. In the lower level misdemeanor, the path to redemption would be, you pay the fine, you do the month in jail, you do your probation, right? And you come out the other end of it and you're, so to speak, redeemed.
Right.
The path to redemption for entering the country unlawfully is to make yourself a lawful immigrant. That's the redemption. There's no other path, or to leave.
But that's currently, there is no other path. I'm looking at this objectively and saying to myself, oh, why would we? I mean, if we can get people to serve our country, to defend our country, and again, how the military feels about it is very, very important to me. It's really important to me. So their opinions to me would trump on this. But I mean, I'm just trying to. We do currently have in this country something like 20 million illegal aliens, and if we told them, hey, if you sign up and serve for 8 years, that you will, or some defined period of time, which I would say, like, not just one tour, but like you're actually willing to go and fight for our country, that you sort of earn your stripes that will give you your citizenship. So why is that something that is, like, why would the fact that they committed a crime, do you think should preclude them from? I mean, it's certainly a benefit to us to have more people in the service. Is it a lack of trustworthiness of them? Is like what is the logic?
It's a question of character.
It's a question
of character, right? Because military members, any military member can be put in a position that is going to require a person of high character.
Right.
For any number of reasons, whether you're talking about national intelligence, well, I'm just the cook on the ship. Well, the cook on the ship has to be ready to do his fire duty. He has to be ready to go into a burning space and pull his buddy out. He's got to be willing to put up with all the nonsense and all the rules and regulations and all of the baggage that comes with being in the active duty military. That takes a degree of character to get through it. And it's not for everybody. I mean, I retired. I did my time.
Right.
I did 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So I'm coming at it from a biased point of view.
Right.
But
I'll tell you something. I think I had known that about you and forgotten it. And it's interesting to me that you and like I said, as a member of you were armed forces or what?
I retired out of the Air Force.
I
retired out of the Air Force.
Yeah. So I'm saying is, but as a former service member, to me, your position on this has more merit, because I think that it's more likely reflective of how this would impact our Army currently and how they and their morale. So you and Patricia Johnson and those like you, to me, your opinions on this matter greatly.
Thank you for that.
No, I'm just saying, because I think no, it's not the same vote. What I'm saying is, I think you have a better understanding from day-to-day knowledge as to like the impact this is likely to have on their fellow service members. And you need to have your armed forces, you need to have them working as a team and trust and respect. And if you're telling me that there would be a deep resentment that would develop from that, I think that that's objectively weakening the Army. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like when you have it's almost like having even if they were like superstar type of, athletically, well-built people, if it's discouraging everyone that's there, your overall team is not cohesive, and that's a worse team. Even and they're not. Whenever you're talking about the service, it's the sum is not necessarily equal to the parts. It can be greater or lesser than, depending on the cohesion of that unit. See what I'm saying?
That's true. So, yes, that's true. And let me push back at you a little bit.
Okay.
In my experience, the people in the military are the most accepting, and probably, gosh, I hate to say it, the most liberal bunch with other people from other sects of society. If you can
say
show
most
up and you can
tolerant,
do your job,
tolerant
tolerant. If you can pull your weight,
right,
you're good here. Fun. I mean, there's exceptions everywhere. Believe it, you get on an aircraft carrier with 5,000 people, you're going to have groups of people and gangs, and but if you're talking about the military as a whole, if you can do the job, you're welcome here.
Right.
Show up on time, work your balls off, do the job, and you're good. And to the degree that you're an illegal immigrant, really wouldn't be the issue. The issue, I think, is from an ethic question.
Okay.
Do we want people of such character they couldn't even come into the country and wouldn't even establish their legitimacy in the country before they enlisted? And now we're going to ask them to defend it?
Right.
We're going to put them in a position. No, I don't know, bro.
Okay.
Not a fan.
All right. Cool.
Not a fan.
Thank you, brother. Let me grab some other calls.
All the best. Get some calls. Talk to you later.
Friend. All right. Worcestershire says, who say they haven't committed murder because there's no criminal record tracing with illegals? That's a fair point. Like if you can't know anything about them, it's kind of difficult. Printer God says, we used to bring people in the military service sentence. Why not to pay off that illegal entry crime? Could be useful. I'm for it. And HYT is branch specific, changes all the time. HYT. I'm not sure what that means. But Lily Smith says they're trying to change the face of America by opening the country with immigrants and as new citizens to vote for him. Yeah, I'm not that worried about that because I think most illegal aliens, if they were naturalized, I don't think they're going to vote as blue as people tend to assume. Personally, I really don't think so at all. I mean, I'm not looking to give them a vote because I'm very much about like let Americans vote for America. But I'm simply saying I know that I agree with you. I think that is their plan. I think it's a foolish plan on their part. Tankrat says every document training and computer database are English in USAF. Adding non-English would be a disaster. I watched them try to read a U.S. manual. I'll tell you this much: their ability to speak English should be that certainly should be a requirement. I agree with you on that. And remember, for 14 months, Tankrat, great to see you, brother, as always. What if they join and can't make it to port? I guess. Yeah, Patricia says the benefits of being a veteran is significant, especially if disability is involved. You would give this to people who broke the law to enter the country. Well, maybe you wouldn't give them those benefits. Maybe that benefit is in lieu thereof. They get naturalized. I mean, if that's what you're saying, I agree with you. I think that potentially that we should say that is part of your compensation is your naturalization. I'm active military. Oh, there you go. Printer God says it's good, and he's active military. The resentment would not exist, in my opinion. Overblown politic and give us good people. They're enlisting to establish legitimacy. Okay. Well, there you go. Sherry says, I wouldn't trust them to have our troops back. What if there's a bunch of self-rub-outs? The lack of trust is an interesting question. It's an interesting question. Look, I'll tell you this much. My first reaction was, hell no. Hell no, that's insanity. That's crazy. And then I thought about it more and more, and I was like, let's try. Let me see, like and I'm loving the feedback here. Let me go and see who I'm calling next. Who am I calling next? All right, let me see. I need you to not just put the last 4 digits, but I need you to call. So this way I know I can find your number. I gotta make this smaller so I can see better. I saw Grifty was up here. Where were you, Grifty? Where were you, Grifty? Okay, that's you. That's great. That's you, Grifty. Here it is. I'm calling you now, Grifty.
What's up, Joe?
Hey, how you doing, Grift? Let me just read this rant real quick here.
Hey, what's up, brother King?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me just read this rant. Krabby T. Girth says, reinstate the draft. Only accept trustworthy legal individuals. Each soldier has to be able to trust the man next to him. I agree with you. But that, and perhaps there's an added training period just to establish, whether or not they're trustworthy, like beyond what we would give our normal military. I mean, maybe that would be part of it. I don't know. Well, what do you want to talk? You want to talk about this topic? You want to talk about freedom of speech? What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about the freedom of speech at the college campuses.
Yeah, go for it.
So, and I hate that we live in this world, but I want to start this off by obviously I don't condone any of the calls
for genocide
or anything like that.
I'm not going to assume that I'm not going to assume for even a moment that simply because you may be a free speech absolutist, that means that you sanction anyone calling for the eradication of another race. So, but go ahead.
Yeah. So that's where I'm coming at, and definitely am a free speech absolutist. But more so, the actual subject matter itself is kind of settled with National Socialist versus Skokie. That happened in 1977. The crimes of the Nazis were well documented by that time.
Mm-hmm.
So just a bunch of neo-Nazis wanting to march in a Jewish neighborhood,
mm-hmm.
the call for genocide is almost implicit in the march.
Mm-hmm.
And the Supreme Court, ruled they have a right to do that.
Right.
So we do have a right to make those calls. And I think what the college president was trying to say was that, if you're standing on your soapbox or if you're giving a speech and you're calling for these things, then yes, that is protected.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if you're in someone's face, if you're locking Jewish students in a residence hall or in a library, as has happened recently,
mm-hmm.
That is the escalation. That's the context I think she was trying to get at. It wasn't a good thing. But to kind of go off what Michael Knowles was saying, I think he's actually closer than maybe you give him credit for. He just didn't say it right, I don't think. The issue isn't their answer, it's their hypocrisy. It's the fact that for years, if you made a comment about someone being overweight, that was fat phobic and creating a hostile environment, and you had to go through tribunals and all this other stuff. Like,
right.
Words are violence. That's
right.
something that's been said on college campuses forever, and now they're switching it up because they are handicapped or handcuffed by their students, like you were saying.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a few things here. So you're correct in what you said in that case in Skokie, which the ACLU defended the neo-Nazis who wanted to march in Skokie. And, when I was talking about this topic, and I spent an hour discussing it on Locals, which I assume that the vast majority of people who are watching this show right now did not watch it, have not yet watched me grapple with that. One of the things that I want to focus on that I was covering there, and just reiterate to you and to everyone else here, is I think that there are good reasons that restrictions on speech coming from government should be invoked far less frequently, and there have to be much broader parameters allowed in public speech than there are in private spaces. And there's a few reasons for this. The few reasons are that A, we need to allow broad speech so that people can push back against the government. B, the government is the only sanctioned individuals who are allowed to commit violence. We give them license to commit violence in various circumstances. So when we give them that license to engage in violence, and that means that they have to be kept at bay more so than almost anyone else, because they're starting off with a right to engage in violence that no private individuals have. And C is the tyranny from a government is a far greater likelihood. It's far easier for a government to be tyrannical of its own people than it would be for an individual to be tyrannical over the public at large. So because of these reasons, when it comes to someone speaking out in public, I think that the government, we should be very careful before ever agreeing that the government can silence someone, because free speech is so essential. Now, That's very different for me than when you're talking about a private agency, because the private agency, none of those factors I just listed off as to reasons to allow a speaker to speak apply when you're dealing with a private agency or within that zone. And even on my own chat here, where I consider myself a free speech absolutist, I still have certain rules, like I don't want racism, I don't want spamming, and I don't want anyone violating terms of service. Why do I do that? Because I think that actually will serve to hurt free speech. That will hurt the ability of people to express their opinions. And I think that when we're talking about what is free speech and why we have free speech, the reasons for free speech are either to petition your government, or you're trying to stoke something to incite change, right? You're trying to incite change, or you're trying to share truth. It's like you have one idea and I want to share another idea. That happens in dialogue. When you're talking about sharing truth, it's you need to have one person and they're talking to someone trying to explain to them why something is a certain way, and then they'll hear opinions from someone else who's engaging in their free speech. And now you have these different ideas, opposing ideas, which are butting heads against each other, which enables the public, which is experiencing it, to sort of reach their own conclusions. These are all the reasons that we give for promoting free speech. Well, if someone is just stoking, saying we got to kill all the Irish people, kill all the Jews, kill all the black people, whatever it is that they're inciting, now none of those objectives of free speech are actually being met. Meaning it's not looking for a change in any sort of way that would be legal. So all the protections that we have, all the reasons, all the motivations we have to be free speech absolutists, none of those motivations are actually being furthered by allowing that speech. And still, I would say, because in a place where the government has oversight, I still would stop the government from stepping in the way of that, because I have so many fears of the government itself becoming tyrannical, and they're not going to draw a healthy line there. But that's why when I was like sort of coming to a conclusion, I was like, you know what? But in a private space, like a college campus or like some platform, I can understand someone saying, when you're going to that level, you're not helping free. It's not actually free speech. It's a stoking toward violence, which is not serving any of the objectives as to why we free speech absolutists are such strong believers in free speech. I mean, the only other reason to be a free speech absolutist is because you're afraid of your government becoming tyrannical. But that's not what's happening when you're on a college campus. You're not fighting against the government. It's not the government that's clamping down. It's someone saying, you know what, you're a jackass and I don't want you around here. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not anything that it's a matter of like, I find you loathsome and disturbing, and I don't have to tolerate you marching through my house or my property or my campus or my chat room and sharing your ridiculously poisonous, disgusting perspectives that have nothing to do with actually affecting healthy change, and are basically saying, let's destroy race X, whether race X is blacks, Jews, whites, whoever. That it's like that you're just a gross person. I don't need to have that around me in my environment. And that's why I don't think that it's really like stepping in the way of free speech absolutism to say, I just don't need that kind of negative, that type of toxicity around me. So that was very lengthy. That was my shortened version of what I spent an hour and a half coming to on my local space. But I'd love to get, since I do think you're a free speech absolutist, I'd love to get your feedback on that perspective. And you might disagree with some of it, and feel free to, Grifty. Share with me your thoughts on that.
So a couple points. The first point is, and obviously all due respect, that is the exact argument that the left uses about the social media platforms to cancel the speech they don't agree with.
Right.
That's the only time the left cares about private business rights.
Right.
Right. So I feel like we're walking down that route, and kind of our the free speech wing of whatever's happening in the world right now.
Right.
Our main argument is that, sure, if it was just a private industry, that's fine, but there's government funding, there's government influence, there's all these other things that are happening that are guiding those decisions. And I actually think that same logic applies to the colleges, even though the Ivy League schools are private colleges, they're still being funded by government-backed student loans. They're still being kind of steered and guided by Title IX and stuff like that from the government, regulations from the government that is steering their, kind of what's going on campus. And I think the campuses themselves do function as a government. They have campus police, they have tribunals. If you are accused of sexual assault on a college campus, most of the time they don't even call the police. They do their own Title IX tribunal
type of thing. Yeah.
Yep, and that's how they're able to railroad these students.
Right.
Is through the processes. So the process or the campus itself is cancer. I think we all know that what's going on in these college campuses is cancer, but I don't think the answer is using their arguments. Like it. Okay.
No, and you're making some great.
I want to know who these people are.
Right. No, and you're making some great points, like really, really great points. And but I'll point out to you when you're some of those points you're making. And I agree with you that what I just expressed is what the left basically said about Twitter before Elon bought it, right? It sounds eerily close to that, and I recognize that. And you have reason to be concerned. I want to point this out to you though. What's laced into your position there, what's built into it is an assumption, and perhaps a correct assumption. I'm not saying your assumption is wrong, but there's an assumption that it's ultimately government exerting the force by using a private operator who has significant power and influence and leverage over the public. So whether they're leveraging it through social media or leveraging it through the colleges, that you're basically saying that even in this private zone, we still have to worry about the government tyranny in those zones, and that's why. So for all the reasons that we stand behind Skokie, and I stand behind the decision in Skokie. I think the decision in Skokie was correct. But while standing behind Skokie, that Skokie should apply in the social media sphere or on a college campus for precisely the same, because of the fact that there's government laced into it. You're extending the definition of government beyond the U.S. government or a state agency to the type of governance that is created in a college campus. But which I don't know that I would extend it that far, and there's a reason I would distinguish in the reason. There's a reason I would distinguish significantly there, and the reason I would distinguish is because you are choosing to go to a college. You don't have to go to a college. Frankly, I tell people you're an idiot if you go to college. I think it's stupid to go to college. So you're choosing to basically meander in there. And then you're saying, now that I've meandered in there, I need to have all the basic constitutional protections and privileges that I want to have. When it comes to social media, I think that's a little bit different because they've sort of crossed into being like a common carrier where it's like you cannot basically exist without being there. But I don't think I would say the same thing about any college campuses. I wouldn't even say about the collectivity of all college campuses, because ultimately I think that you probably live a very happy and successful life without ever going to college. So I don't think, and while I can understand it's easy to sort of jump from this private entity to that private one, when they're talking about Twitter, you're talking about Penn State. At the end of the day, I do think that there's a significant distinction between those two, and that's why. And I definitely think we've seen the government exerting its influence when it comes to social media. That's I think to my mind, and certainly the court of public opinion, that's firmly well established in the Twitter files. So I think that there's deep interplay there between government and social media, and there very well could be similar interplay between college and frankly, I'll agree with you. It's likely that there's similar interplay between the U.S. government and these colleges, given what we've seen. And I think that that's a fair counter. I do think that what you were saying there is a very fair counter, that whatever rules we would apply that enabled Skokie should apply to social media, should apply on a college campus, should apply anywhere, because at the end of the day, wherever we go, if the government is meddling into us, and it's government that's trying to wield its forces. So I think that you're making a great point a great point on that. But let me ask you this: what about the argument that it's not when someone is screaming, kill, and riling up a crowd to say, let's kill this family. Let's just I'm going to make it like this. Let's say I would start riling people up to kill every member of Bill Gates' family. Okay, so I'm going to make it something that's as not and it's not about me or my people, not about you or your people, but I basically said Bill Gates is the face of evil. He's a terrible human being, and anyone who's got his DNA and I managed to, and I get thousands of people to march up towards his property and basically, chanting, "We need to kill Bill Gates." Do you think that there would be something that's free speech that should be allowed, or do you think that that's something that's disturbing and immoral?
I'd have to think on it a little more. I think what pops to mind first is how Nick Rekieta has described incitement as far as I don't know if it's
he uses the Brandenburg standard of Supreme Court, which is that's being incitement towards something that's imminently dangerous in time and manner.
The practical example he gives is literally someone on stage giving a speech to a bunch of white people, and there's one black person in the crowd, and the person on the stage is saying, we need to kill all black people. We need to, do this, do that. I'm sorry, YouTube. This isn't a hypothetical. And that technically that is okay. But if he then turns and points to the individual black person in the crowd and says, we need to kill that black person, that's the difference between incitement. So I think by going to Bill Gates' family, you're kind of crossing that line of pointing to an individual. And not even to use the Bill Gates example, as white people on Twitter, on any social media, I constantly see calls to, end whiteness or to decolonize the U.S. And after the attacks in Israel, we saw what they mean by decolonize.
Right.
We see this every day, but I don't call for those people to be banned. I don't report them. I actually am grateful to see them because I want to know who feels that way. Harvard has kind of been at the center of this, and that's where that truck that drove around with the student group and as people said, doxed all the members of the student group was. I'm 100% in favor of that. I think that is the counter to the hateful speech, is to embrace and amplify in the way of shine a spotlight on it. I'm a true believer in sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Right. Right. What if that what if that sunlight is designed to harass and intimidate people specifically who are in the vicinity? Do you think
like I said,
what I'm saying is when they're marching on a campus, and here's the thing, and I want you to just think through your answer, and while I go through super chats. But the question I want to basically point out to you is this, and I gave an example of someone who creates fentanyl, right, and then gives it to a distributor, and then basically says, "Oh, I can't stand in the way of that distribution because capitalism, and I'm a very big believer in capitalism, and it's not fair for them to have an asset that they shouldn't be able to sell." Well, you created the stinking fentanyl, and that's how I look at these colleges. Like, these kids have been trained to think that anti-Zionism is your woke religion, and the line between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism is so ridiculously thin that none of these stupid kids can actually figure it out. So they've basically been infusing them with this, and then saying, "Oh, we can't do anything about it because free speech." It's like you're the one who trained them to think this way. And now when they're manifesting that, and specifically using the term genocide, because that's something that's been used that has that's associated with Jews, because Jews are the most well-known victims of genocide. So they're specifically using this whole thing, charging with genocide or from the river, from the sea, and basically trying to threaten that another Holocaust is coming. And that and when you know that there are Jewish students around there who are definitely going to be thinking that that's what they all want to do to me right now, that it's now this speech is basically designed to try and scare the bejesus out of these students. That's essentially what it is. So that once you're the one who unleashed these and poisoned these minds, do you not think that they have some level of responsibility to say, what the hell are you doing? Dial it back. Like, that's kind of insane. Like, you're taking this to a level that we didn't foresee you were going to take it to. Before, I want you to just mull over those different factors in the equation while I get to these super chats, okay? So Emma's Kitchen says, how do you want to do a background check on undocumented people? It's a very good question, Emma. It's a really good question, and that's part of what someone mentioned earlier. Maybe someone committed murder, and how are we going to know if they did it if they're undocumented? It's a great question. Tankrat, thank you for the 20, brother. I'd rather have a Philippines or other country citizen apply legally, join the military to become a U.S. citizen than an illegal who broke the law to become a citizen. Most jobs in U.S. Air Force require security clearances, and I don't know how you would have security clearances. That's a really good question. Like, how the hell would you have security clearances if you don't know very much about them? Although, frankly, if someone's an illegal alien and they want to try and get naturalized by engaging in this service, I think that they probably would have to come to the government and give documentation about who they are as a person before we would accept them. So this is something I think, Tankrat, what you're touching on here is sort of necessitates an answer to what Emma's saying over here and these other questions as far as you know, how are we going to allow these people to do something like this? I think that it's almost like an invitation for them to vet themselves and basically say, here's everything about me and my background, and I want to participate in this program. And if that's the methodology that we're employing, would all of you still have an issue with it? Those of you who have an issue with it, would you still have an issue with it if it's like, look, a guy crosses the border, comes across with his wife, his kid, whatever, something like that, or himself? Okay, he's 26 years old. He comes across the border and he basically says, I want to sign up in the army and I want to become naturalized as a citizen. Here's my documentation. You can look me up and find out whatever it is you want about me, and check out who I am and what I'm about. I never committed any serious crimes, and we do have some sort of method that is fairly reliable to actually research that, which that would be an important element to me as well. And now, but we're basically got him to now come forward to us rather than trying to find him to deport him, but have him come forward to us and basically self-tell on himself to report. Would that change your perspective on things? That's like, okay, now we know something about this person. He wants to earn his naturalization, his citizenship by engaging in armed service. So that, I think that would have to be the only way it could possibly work. I mean, it couldn't work. It's like, we have no idea who this guy is, but we're just going to throw him into our military and we're going to give him a gun and hope he doesn't kill everyone. That doesn't, everyone on the base. That doesn't, clearly that's not the way it could work. It would have to be some people who were being vetted first before we actually, train them in how to use arms. So, and then hand them a gun. Lily Smith says, we're inciting violence. They lied and said Trump did that. Yeah, no, I agree with you that they definitely lie and claim that he said they incited violence. And I mean, look, then I'm not asking the question about like what is what I think your question is a fair question as far as the interpretation. But I'm really fixating on specifically this type of speech, which everyone can clearly say these are people calling for genocide. So I'm sort of trying to limit the scope of this conversation to situations where it's inarguable that what they're calling for is for people to be murdered, but not that they're actually not that someone that's that they're doing what the example that Grifty gave, where they're like, kill that guy, because that we already agree is illegal. So I'm saying, is there not a concept potentially that in a private place that you can say, you know what, I can understand that that's something that merits being sanctioned, that you're basically saying, I want people I want this race of people to be exterminated. One last one here, and then I'm going to come back to you, Grifty. My Swedish wife, Melina, who I was in an open relationship with, left me for a twink. Wow, that's pretty sad. And I will owe alimony. She only used me for a green card. That's pretty sad. I'm sorry. For a twink? Really? How does that work? How does that work? Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here on Rumble and on Worcestershire says free speech isn't free from consequences. Arrest them, kick them out of college or country, etc. Shun them, deterrence. So she's also a free speech absolutist, but she doesn't think that it's free from consequences. You can say whatever you want, but I think once you arrest them, I think that you're saying it's not free speech, though. At that point. So what are your thoughts back to what I was saying over there? That when the college, I'm back to you, Grifty. That if the college is the one who's infected their minds, that they sort of have a duty to try putting the genie back in the bottle, so to speak, or at least not allow it to go unchecked as it's designed to harass the hell out of other people.
So I think it really kind of does come down to the details. I think, like, two specific examples. I think if a group of students are marching through the quad, through the common area, assembling, having speakers, that type of thing on campus, I don't think that's actually crossing the line for in like harassment. And I would say the same thing about a group of
Would you say the same thing about Riley Gaines, who is basically being harassed harassed on campuses because she's expressing an anti-trans perspective?
Well, I would say that if that same march of, pro-Hamas people went past the Jewish Center on campus and set up in front of the Jewish Center on campus, that turns to harassment. Or the example where the students were trapped in, I think it was a library, and the librarian, in the student union, and they offered them to go up in the attic and all this stuff. Like, I think that was harassment. But on the flip side,
how is that different from the black guy in the back of the room where they're saying we need to kill all the blacks?
I think you're allowed to do that. I think it's disgusting. I don't think you're allowed to say we need to kill that black.
Okay, but you see, I'm having a difficult time understanding where you intellectually draw this line. You're saying that what happened with the Cooper Union, where they're not saying we have to kill these Jews, they're just like, we hate all the Jews need to die.
No. What happened at the Cooper Union was wrong. No. What happened at Cooper Union was wrong.
Why is that wrong, but the black guy in the back isn't wrong?
Because they didn't trap the black guy in the back in a building.
Oh, because he was able to run away, basically.
His freedom was not impeded or impeded. Okay. His freedom, he could leave. He wasn't being directly accosted. Mm-hmm. And if he didn't want to hear what was being said, he had the ability to remove himself from the situation. So that's where, if they're just protesting in the quad, the Jewish students on campus can just avoid the quad and remove themselves from the equation. Whereas if they go to the Jewish community center on campus and surround it, then they're directly targeting the individuals in the community center. And I would say the same thing for the reverse. Like I said, if a group of pro-Israeli protesters were marching through campus and speakers were advocating to glass Gaza, I would say they also have the same rights. Mm-hmm. even though I think that would be an atrocity, by the common understanding of the term, which is to nuke Gaza. I think that would be horrible. I think Israel would be monsters for doing that because there are millions of non-combatants in the city. But I think they should be allowed to say that.
Okay.
I think that's the equivalent on the two. And then the one thing, and I'll hop off of here, but I did just want to point out one thing you had said about the choice to go to college and what that means, or how that's a choice. I'd argue that it's not a choice. I'd argue that 13 years of government school telling you the only way to succeed in life is to go to these colleges. Is, if we think them pushing the trans stuff in school is grooming, then they're obviously grooming kids to feel that they have to go to these institutions.
I mean, look, I'll grant you that, like, if you don't go to college, you can't become a lawyer. You can't, you're telling that the solution of you don't need to go to college can be a bit asinine. And I'm simply saying that it's not quite the same as you can't speak on this street. That's my point. It's really not quite the same.
I agree. It's definitely not the same. I do think the kids are kind of pushed in that direction. Specifically as the father of two high schoolers right now who are dealing with this pressure.
All right, let me grab some. But hey, I'm going to let other calls, brother. Thank you so much for the call. I appreciate your thoughts.
Happy Hanukkah, Joe.
You too.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy holidays, brother. This show also says indoctrination / fundamentalism / lie / manipulation / dangerous propaganda isn't speech. Okay. Dennis says the U.S. has solid immigration system. People apply from their home countries. They get vetted. Clean bill of health, mandatory. Have a sponsor and come with money. You also agreed to not be a burden. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal too. That's a pretty big deal. All right, I want to just check and make sure that that anyone else who's in my chat over here on Locals, did any of you call that I missed your calls? And if so, just give me your last 4 digits of your number and I'll call you right back. And if not, I'm going to open up to the general. I'm going to go next to the general folk. The general folk. General folk, how are you? General folk reporting for duty. So if you did call me and you're from Locals, just type your 4 digits in there. And okay, so Adrian's saying that she called. I don't see that. Do I see that here? Let me see your number. See your number here. Do I see it? I don't see that number. I don't see you having called in, Adrian. I'm looking for those 4 digits. Fans says, if you can call back, Adrian, that'd be helpful. I see an 0411. I don't see an 0111. September 25th. Hannah, can you close the door, please? Thanks. You even left a voicemail. Let me check this out. I got you. I got you. I found you. How do I call you now? There you go. I'm calling you now, Adrian.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I shouldn't call you after the pacing you gave me last week.
What?
I'm still feeling the scars. I'm still feeling the scars.
Come on. I was 2 and 10.
That's what's so aggravating.
Needed a good win.
It's so aggravating. You didn't need the win. You're eliminated from the playoffs anyway.
I know, but for my own
I guess
ego,
that was.
I know
that was your Super Bowl. It was your Super Bowl, and you did well.
Yeah.
You did well. I got it. So what's on your mind? You want to talk about free speech? You want to talk about the whole illegal aliens in the army?
I wanted to talk about the illegal aliens.
All right. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Personally, I think that if they broke the law once to come into the country, they are not going to follow any kind of chain of command. And if we give them, you can get into the military, well, they're coming in with an ulterior motive, and there's no I don't know what the word is, but to when people join the military, they're doing it for an altruistic motivation usually. I mean, of course they get benefits, but
you're saying it's a patriotic that joining the armed forces is a patriotic thing, and it's not motive.
Right, absolutely not. I mean, they're doing it to meet an end, and it bothers me. And I used to not really, I'd be like, okay, well, they came into the country illegally, but they did it for whatever their reasoning was, and I bought into that whole they're law-abiding citizens, and that came and bit me in the backside, and I don't believe it. I don't believe it anymore.
Okay, all right, but what about so you think that because they broke the law to get in here, that means that is it that they're relatively new to the country, which is what keeps you from believing that they have patriotism, or is it that they broke the law to get in here?
It's the breaking of the law, because if you break a law, you're more than likely going to break another law, and you're going to keep going. You're in it for yourself. I'll tell you like a real quick background of I am very biased. Mm-hmm. My uncle was killed by an illegal alien. Okay. He was not, it was involuntary manslaughter, but it was because they were not following the law.
Okay.
So he broke into the country. He was selling drugs. He was doing all of these things. And, it was a car accident with my uncle, but, it was a 35-mile-an-hour zone. He's doing 84.
Right.
It's like you can't even follow a speed limit. And you think that you're going to get into the military and you're going to follow a chain of command and do what's best for the unit and for the country? I don't think so.
Okay, but AJ, I want to point out to you, that was one individual. I don't know that that's indicative of everyone, of all legal aliens, that they're all driving 80 miles an hour and 30-mile speed limits. The same way, I don't know what color hair you have, but I'm sure that there's some people who share your hairstyle who might have done some really heinous acts that you would never consider doing, right? We sort of I don't know if that's indicative. Look, and as far as them breaking the law, let me ask you this. Maybe that shows a level of what one might counter. I'm just playing devil's advocate here with you.
Right.
But to play devil's advocate, maybe that displays how hungry they are to be an American, that they want to break the law to come here because they have a deep respect for and admiration for America.
No, I don't think so.
Let me ask you this. Is there any other country on earth that you would consider sneaking across the border to get in there?
No.
Why not? Because it's America. Because America,
right?
So that's my point. You would never even think of doing that with another country, but here it is. They didn't just think of it; they actually did it. Now, some of them I can understand. I like you. I have concerns that some of them are not coming here because they are looking to make for a better life, but that they're here because they have a nefarious agenda, right? That's essentially that's what any American has to have concern for. the question, you know, and that's to me one of the biggest concerns is like, if you're too impatient to actually go through the normal process of applying to be naturalized legally, which we naturalize 1 million people a year, which is far greater than any other country in planet has ever done. The number of people that we legally allow to become citizens here, and they're unwilling to go through that process. I sort of feel like I'm not looking to just reward them or find some carrot to hold out for them. So, and I certainly have that grave distrust. To me, a large part of this would come down to just me standing individually. A large part of it would be like, I want to know that I can trust our vetting system on any single person who broke the law to come in here. And that vetting system would have to be so ridiculously thorough. Like I'm doing like, you know, DNA testing on them that, and I'm positive I'm very skeptical that whatever vetting system we would implement would be would suffice to the yardstick that I think is appropriate. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. Absolutely.
To me, that's the biggest concern. It's like, if whatever yardstick we put down, that's going to start. That yardstick is going to get lowered and lowered and lowered until it's going to be like, do you speak English? Yeah, okay. Here's your gun. You know, and that's how I think that yardstick will ultimately be watered down. And that to me is a grave concern. That doesn't mean that if there wasn't some way that I could have confidence in that yardstick being maintained really high. So it's like, look, this is someone who's just desperate to live in this country. And they're willing to sacrifice their own bodies and risk their own lives in order to have that opportunity. I think that's not something I would just dismiss lightly as something that I would never, that I can't foresee a circumstance that I would be like, that's okay. It's just that whatever. I just think those circumstances would be really high. Let me grab another couple of calls. But yeah, you have a final thought you want to give me?
Yeah, I do. I want to counter that really quick because
do it.
If they wanted to join the military to come here, there is a pathway to do that, to apply from their country. So, you know,
right. That's true. Although I think that might take a lot longer, and they might feel like I'll have to wait 5 years because there's a waiting list of like 4 million people, or I could just walk across the border.
Right. So what makes you think that they'll follow the chain of command once they're in the military? They'll be cutting corners and saying, "Oh, well, I don't want to wait."
So you're saying it displays something about their character. That's essentially
absolutely.
That's a fair point. Thank you so much, Adrienne. You're awesome.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Next year when I square off against you again, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be looking for blood. I'm just giving you a heads up.
Yeah. Okay, well, you need to leave my people alone. My little squirrels, they're small. You can't be beating on them like this.
All right. Take care, Adrienne. Thanks.
You too. Bye.
Fine. All right. Let me see if there's anyone else here. Cars in Depth says Chag Sameach, which means happy holidays. Oil or candles? Oil always. Sour cream, applesauce or sugar? Sour cream. And that's on the latkes. And individual menorahs or one for the entire mishpacha? Individual menorahs. Everyone gets their own menorah. Down to like the 2-year-old. There's a picture of me when I'm 2 years old, like reaching up to light menorah. You can see literally the diaper hanging out of me. So we've continued that tradition here. The women don't always light. If they want to, they can, but it'll depend on like the day and the time and situation. Sometimes they'll just rely on me. Other times they'll do it for themselves, but the boys always light. Okay, let's see if there was any other numbers here that I was supposed to pick up. Anyone else? Who else am I supposed to call back? I think I got to any of you. Give me your last 4 digits and I'll call you back. Did you want fans? Give me 5309, you bastard. 867. 867-5309. If not, I'm just going to open up. You, 8915, and okay, and original. I don't know your first name. 8915. 8915. Not seeing it. 8915. Let me go to my voicemails. Maybe it was there. Did you leave me a voicemail? There you are. All right. I got you. All right, that's Lisa. I'm calling you now.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for calling.
My pleasure.
Okay, so I think most people are considering these illegals to be new illegals. And why not put the dreamers into this? If you're a dreamer, you can get your citizenship by going into the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard.
Interesting. So you're saying you would have to spend some time here first?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying that would be a way to start. Because we're already trying to figure out how we're working millions of people who have crossed illegally.
Okay. And I'll tell you something. I mean, that's part of what I'm thinking about. Is like, okay, so what really is going to happen with these 10 million folks who came in here, or the other 10 million that were here before Biden took office? You know, like there's got to be something we're going to do. We're not going to glass them.
No. And
they're not all going to be deported, no matter what Nikki Haley claims she's going to do, or whoever else was up there on that stage yesterday. They're not all going to be deported. So what the heck are we going to do with them?
It's the question of the century. Nobody knows what to do with them. And under Barack Obama, we got like the open border.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so now we have a situation that's very difficult to comprehend, much less to alleviate. But I think starting with dreamers and working backwards, and you know,
why would they be
people
more
that have newly crossed will have to be deported.
How would that address any of the issues that other callers have raised, such as, you know, lack of trust, or the fact that they broke the law, or the fact that it would demoralize our military?
Well, if somebody's lived here for 20 years, they've got a job, they've got
I don't think people joining the Army tend to be 40 years old, right? I mean,
nobody's joining the Army at 40. You're not allowed to join the Army.
That's my point. So you're saying that they got here when they were 5 years old and they're a legal alien, and now they've been here for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's who the dreamers are.
I guess so. In a sense, look, I guess they've established roots, right? So that's if they've been living here for a certain period of time.
They've been living here for a long period of time. Most of them, they probably have gone through the entire school system here.
Mm-hmm.
Their parents are probably working off the books, and they're getting real jobs because they're getting Social Security numbers.
Right. Okay. It's
a way of vetting.
I agree with you that certainly should help with the vetting process. If it's someone who didn't just show up here 10 minutes ago.
Right. That's who I don't want in the military. And I think anybody that's come in the last 8 years should be deported, irrespective of anything. They should be deported.
All right. Round them up, deport them. Where do you drop them off?
Drop them off at the Mexican border. Tell Mexico to deal with it.
Yeah, we can't. But you can't leave 10 million people at the border. That's not very realistic.
They did. They did it to us.
Yeah. I don't know how that would work.
Well, how about this? You find out what country they're from, and every day we have 10 planes going to different regions of the world.
Take them back.
Take them back.
To me, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and it's going to cost us a fortune no matter what we do with them.
Well, I'm sure flying them back is a lot cheaper than them staying here, if the money is the issue. All right, thank you, Lisa. Appreciate the call.
You bet.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. All right, locals, are you all done, or is there anyone else here that I missed? Did I miss any of y'all? 6195. Let's talk Hunter. All right, we'll talk Hunter. I'm calling you fans.
Hello, you've reached Peter Hans with Please leave me a detailed message and I'll...
I did call you. I got your voicemail, Peter. You want to turn your phone on? Gosh. What's to do with you? Dennis says, what's the limit and why should there be one? If you're not going to deport, how do we bring the ones left behind here? Here, they also deserve to be here. How do we bring the ones left behind here? They also deserve to be here. Oh, I think we need to deport them. I just don't think that leaving them on the border, leaving them in Tijuana is a viable option. I simply think that dropping them deeper into South America is a better call, or at least deeper into Central America. By the way, 38 casings are perfect for Hanukkah candles. Thank you for that little tidbit of information. You found a category I could see the exception, dreamers. Okay. All right. We're reaching now. We see, this is what I like about interacting with multiple folks, is that like I start hearing different perspectives. You start making you think about things in a little different way. Okay, dreamers might be an interesting idea. Unfortunately, I think dreamers all got their scissors thanks to Barack Obama and his pen that SCOTUS sanctioned. Should I call you back now? Fans, you want me to call you back? Your do not disturb is on. All right. I'll try you now.
All right, Joe, I'm here now.
All right. I wasn't trying to dox you, brother.
Sorry about that. Do not disturb kicks in on its own.
Yeah. All right. So you said you want to talk about Hunter?
Yeah, the indictments here. I'm surprised we're actually getting some.
You're surprised we're getting some. Let me go over this. Story. I haven't even read it. I just sort of saw an article. I saw that it happened. Pulled up an article at random. So let me read this to everyone so they can know what's going on here with Hunter Biden. All right. So I'll read it to you. You'll stay on the phone, and then we'll discuss. So Lindsay Whitehurst, Associated Press, reporting. Hunter Biden was indicted on 9 tax charges in California on Thursday as a special counsel investigation into the business dealings of the president's son intensifies against the backdrop of the looming 2024 election. New charges, 3 felonies, 6 misdemeanors, come in addition to federal firearms charges, which frankly, I don't think there should be any federal firearms charges. I'm totally fine with them letting them go. In Delaware, alleging Hunter Biden broke a law against drug users having guns in 2018. He had been previously expected to plead guilty to misdemeanor tax charges as part of a plea deal with prosecutors who said he failed to pay taxes on $4 million in personal income in 2017 and 2018. Defense attorneys have signaled they plan to fight any new charges. Surprise, they want to get paid. He had been previously expected to plead guilty to misdemeanor tax charges as part of a plea deal with prosecutors who said he failed to pay taxes on $4 million in personal income tax. Defense attorneys have said, the agreement imploded in July after a judge raised questions about it. It had been also been pilloried as a sweetheart deal. It wasn't a sweetheart deal. It was like it was like intercourse, that deal. Investigated by Republicans investigating nearly every aspect of Hunter Biden's business dealings, as well as the Justice Department's handling of this case. Republicans have also pursued an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden, claiming he was engaged in an influence peddling scheme with his son. And supposedly, by the way, they say that multiple checks went from Hunter's companies to Papa Joe. The House is expected to vote next week on formally authorizing the inquiry. While questions have arisen about the ethics surrounding the Biden family's international business, no evidence has emerged so far to prove that Joe Biden, his current or previous office, abused his role or accepted bribes. That's crap. That's not true. That's what this article. That's really That's a terrible way of framing it. That's a very tilted way of framing it. Criminal investigation led by Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss, open since 2018, and was expected to wind down with the plea deal that Hunter Biden had planned to strike with prosecutors. He would have pled guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax evasion charges and would have entered a separate agreement on the gun charge. He would have served 2 years of probation and 0 jail time. Also had numerous immunity provisions, and defense attorneys have argued that they remain in force since that part of the agreement was signed by a prosecutor before the deal was scrapped. Prosecutors disagree, saying documents weren't signed by a judge and are invalid. After the deal fell apart, prosecutors filed 3 federal gun charges, alleging that Biden had lied about his drug use to buy a gun that he kept for 11 days in 2018. And that's against federal law. Hunter Biden's longstanding struggle with substance abuse had worsened during that period after the death of his brother, Beau Biden. He still made substantial income in 2017 and 2018 when he was peddling influence and basically selling out our country. Not that this article is going to say that. Including $2.6 million in business and consulting fees from a company he formed with the CEOs of a Chinese business conglomerate and the Ukrainian energy company Burisma, but did not pay taxes. I guess because most people who are involved in the mafia tend to never want to pay taxes. He did eventually file taxes in 2020. The back taxes were paid by a third party the following year, prosecutor said. Okay, so what are your thoughts? What do you got for me?
My thoughts are, I'm surprised Weiss indicted him on a felony charge this time.
Yeah, I think they were humiliated the first time around.
They were definitely humiliated, and then the previous charges were all just give me's, and they weren't even supposed to be there. That was we're gonna proffer all this other crap that we did so that we're immune from it.
Okay.
And I think the likelihood of this actually succeeding, this is all charged in California.
So you're saying he's going to walk because it's in California?
Partly because it's California charges. I don't think they're going to go through with it. They're going to offer a sweetheart deal, or if they finally take down Joe, he's going to just pardon himself and his son.
Right. So ask yourself this. Why do you think that they didn't do this initially? And when they always look, the pardon option has always been there ever since, this was no one was talking about any of these charges before Joe became president. This only became public after Joe became president. So from that point forward through till today, the pardon option has always been looming there in the background as a get out of free jail card, literally. And so, but they never wanted to use it before, and now it seems as if they're willing to basically say, if we have to rely on the pardon option, we will. Obviously, he's not going to go to jail, right? I mean, if it was your kid and you were president, you wouldn't let him go to jail, right?
Yeah, he's not going to go to jail. That's the whole thing. Is it a plot to try to push Joe out of office? Is it a plot? Are we trying to drop some cards to try to finally push him out? I don't know, but it is definitely a weird happening. Special prosecutor Weiss, who wasn't even a special prosecutor till recently, only was able to drop these charges because he was a special prosecutor. He had previously gone to California and to D.C. Asked the prosecutors out there to assist in this prosecution, but they said no.
Right.
So there's this, and then the links between Special Prosecutor Weiss and Hunter Biden's dead brother, it's all funny business beyond belief. It's I don't know what to make of it. It's heads and tails.
And yet these charges have dropped, which is, so what this tells me, I mean, my first thought on all of this is Joe Biden ain't running in 2024. So if he's running in 2024, either that or they feel like these charges are not going to be brought before the election of 2024. There's no way they're going to let him spend time in jail. They're not going to let him spend 10 minutes in jail. So he would be pardoning him. We all know he's going to be pardoning him if, in fact, he were to ever be convicted. So there definitely was a lot of political pressure that came along.
Or if Joe
here.
loses the election, he'll pardon him, because that'll definitely be if it comes to he hasn't pardoned him yet and the charges haven't gone through, because we're talking this is pretty late in the cycle to drop the charges, and how long will it take to actually prosecute him?
Right.
Could take a long time. So
right. It could take
if he loses the election.
It could take well over a year, but he has the ability to pardon until January 20th, 2025, right? So whether or not he loses, that pardon has probably already been written in case he has a stroke, right? They probably have the pardon sitting around there waiting to be dropped at any time. I mean,
there's always a question.
Yeah.
There is a question about pardoning without actually announcing the pardon. That has been a question in past pardoning is, do you actually have to announce the pardon?
Why?
Or can you pocket pardon it?
Why can't you pocket?
Yeah, why do you have to announce?
What's what basis in law would have you seen or heard of that says that a pardon is only effectual if it's public?
Exactly. There's always talk of the pocket pardon.
I would assume that there have been countless pocket pardons that we have never heard of. I would assume that there have been thousands of them that have been issued. Thousands of pocket pardons that we don't know anything about. The only time we would know about it is if someone's released from jail. But I would assume that there have been thousands of pocket pardons that we have never, ever heard about. Frankly, I think if Trump didn't give himself a pardon, I think it's kind of stupid. I think he should have given himself a pardon and his kids. But you wouldn't want to bring it out. You wouldn't want to bring it out unless and until you're actually convicted, and then you waive that pardon. Because basically,
because if you waive it too early, then
especially if you have political aspiration, if you have future political aspiration, you know that the public is going to react and say, "What the hell is this?" and they're going to turn on you. So you would only waive it if, like, you know that you're about to go to jail. It's like, all right, I got a choice of turning public perception against me or going into the slammer. I'm gonna say screw public perception. And that's why I'm saying that this whole thing here, public perception of Joe Biden, is going to, however bad it is now, it's going to turn into vitriol if and when those pardons become public. So either they feel like these charges are not going to actually have to be served, lead to any, either they feel like he's going to win California, like you're saying, or they feel like it's not going to come up before the election of which is in less than a year now. And
we all know December for the courts is a no month. It's like there's not anything going on in December. You already got December. They're not really going to get to the Christmas of January or February.
I frequently these criminal charges take a year to process. So I would not be remotely surprised to see that he wouldn't go to trial until December of next year. And then, once the election is over, as all the votes are in, I think that he hasn't to worry about making that pardon public. Or it could be simply that he's not running, and he knows he's not running, and it's become really clear that he's not running. So it's like, all right, let's show that we have the integrity to go after Hunter Biden, and that we play fair and we hold everyone to the same level of scrutiny. Same punishment for Donald Trump is for Hunter Biden, and that way we can show we play fair walking into the November election, and then throw that out there and try and use that to score points of like, oh, you see, he's an upstanding guy. He's, he lets the justice system play out, and he's willing to trust the justice system, but Donald Trump isn't.
Well, it all comes back to Attorney General Barr, because Barr is the one that put this special prosecutor, this person in charge was Barr. And Barr knew his links to the Hunter family, to the Biden family. So that's where it's like he already put, that's why I don't really. And then you come into like, is this why Trump is so open? Like, he doesn't really care about the charges against him. Does he have a pocket pardon that's just sitting in his pocket? The only charges that he's really concerned about are the state charges, because you can't pardon yourself for those.
It could be that the state charges are more of a concern for Trump. I don't think he's going to end up facing any of these ultimately. I don't think he's going to face any of it.
Well, Big Fanny doesn't have much of a case. We all know that, but
RICO charges are easier to get a conviction than regular charges. That's the only concern.
Yeah.
I don't see him spending 10 seconds in any prison, Trump. I don't think he's going to face any convictions at all. But let me grab the next call, brother. All right.
All right. You have a good night.
Thank you so much, my friend. I'll catch you soon. Ryan English says military for citizens only. Don't enable the armed forces to turn into an occupation force against our own country because they lack American qualms. Then that the lack of trustworthiness is certainly something that I think the Dreamers thing might help overcome that problem. Joe's special caller incoming. Yeah, I saw that. Best Special caller left you a message. You should call him back. Let's try him out.
Hello?
Sean!
Yes, hi, Joe.
How are you? We're on the air, by the way.
I know. I just muted so everybody could hear.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I was going to
Yeah.
I was going to say, hope you were a good Jewish boy and celebrated with your family because, like,
I did.
You know,
I did. They even called me down here in the middle of the show. The reason I didn't tell anyone, the reason they called me down is because my son-in-law to be got me a Hanukkah gift. So like they wanted me to open it in front of them. I'm not sure if it was a joke gift or not.
8 nights of dowry.
8 nights of dowry. That's what I should be charged.
Well, it's good. I just wanted to make sure you're celebrating and be a good Jewish boy.
I'm being a good Jewish boy. What do you take out of this Hunter Biden charges? What do you think?
Waiting for the rug pull. I mean, I'd love to see it, but no FARA, no Foreign Corrupt Practice Act, no, giving his pension for hookers, no Mann Act violations, no trafficking violations.
See,
there's all kinds of stuff.
This is just another slap on the wrist, you're saying.
Well, we'll see what it's going to turn into. And yeah, I'm sure this is going to drag on past the election too. So
yeah, and that way he can issue the pardon and not have to face repercussion for it.
Well, yeah, because if he tries to pardon beforehand, I think I mentioned this before, but like if he pardons Hunter, then pretty much all the, oh my God, Trump's like that, all that stuff you were told us about literally just happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that if he pardons Hunter beforehand, Trump wins.
Yeah, there's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah. No, I know, but I do think part of this is, though, I think the guy before mentioned it. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the, the powers that be might be trying to leverage Joe out, and this is a way to force him out, saying like, look, don't run. Like Kamal's looking at him saying, Joe, don't come, Joe. And if he doesn't, they'll let it go. So
you're saying they'll expedite it in order to they'll say that we're going to expedite this and embarrass you by forcing you to use a pardon on him?
Yeah. Well, and the only other thing I'm thinking, though, is because it's a tax case, it's not super huge.
Right.
Like they've already done the investigating. It's not like Trump's where it's going to drag on forever. He's not running for office. So they could, rocket this one along, and that would be hilarious.
It would be really funny. All right, my brother. I appreciate your call. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and I'll have you on back here real soon.
All right, Joe. I'll see you around.
Thank you. Take care, my brother. Look at that potentially criminal Sean, the most awesome, most base man. I should have asked him about the whole genocide thing, because he's a real free speech absolutist. Should I call him back? I should have asked him that. He's muted on his own. Oh, he's on his own channel. Oh, he's streaming right now. That's really funny. Is he really streaming right now? Let's see what we got here. Potentially criminal. Let me pull him up here. That's pretty funny. I didn't know I was calling him on his show. Oh, he's live.
So good news is Joe was being a good boy. He did take care of things. Did I mute myself on purpose here? Yes. I was going to mute myself and then have this going so you could hear it, but apparently I muted that too.
Nice.
My bad.
Nice. This is...
Damn it.
This is awesome.
Damn it.
Awesome.
Oh, son of a bitch. Oh, you're going to stream snipe me now, Joe. I'll show you.
This is Inception. This is freaking Inception.
That's right.
All right,
hold on.
Quit it.
I'm already stream sniping you, so it doesn't matter.
All right. Well, I'm gonna.
I'm gonna listen to myself. See if I can hear my
echo. I think I'm getting a headache. This is freaking Inception.
Right.
All right.
On,
I'm muting him. All right. We're done with him. I'll catch you soon, bro. All right. Well, that was fun. All right, let me see if there was anyone else here. Let me go back into my Google Voice. He freaked me out with that. He freaked me out with that whole Streamception thing. Google Voice. Let me go back in there. Was there anyone else that I missed? I'm going to open my phone lines for a little bit here. Oh. Make sure I didn't miss you. You're good here. We're good there. All right, I'm going to open the phone lines up. I think I covered everyone in locals who wanted to talk. All right, I'm going to open my phone lines up here for a little bit. 3 topics. Any one of those 3 topics, feel free to call in on. I'm turning off. I'm now receiving calls, so you can feel free to ring on in here. Whether you want to talk about free speech, you want to talk about I think that if I'm starting to buy the whole Dreamers thing. I'm starting to buy it. If they've been here a while, I'm starting to think like maybe it's not such a terrible idea if we can swing a couple 100,000 of them into like our military.
Call from
Tim, Lost in Law.
All right.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Jim.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
Awesome. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Man. Hey, it's producer Tim from Drexel Show.
Oh, producer Tim. Oh, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Just exam time up here in law school now.
Yeah, you're in Canada, right?
Yes.
Whereabouts?
So I live in Calgary most of the time. I'm not going to dox what school I go to, but...
right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great city, Calgary. It's out east side of the Rockies.
It's out east side of the Rockies. Okay. And
so, like directly above Montana.
So I actually tried getting Drex on here the other night because now I can get him back on here. Now that my I had like a 1.5 hiatus of having Drex on here because I was like, yeah, all these people are like sort of peeking in on me, trying to decide whether they want to let their kid marry my kid. I don't think I need them watching me hang out with Drex. He's going to basically be talking about, I don't know, German Shepherds. And I was like, I don't need it. I was like, this is something that's going to make my wife furious at me. I don't need to have a week-long fight with her just to hang out with Drex. But now that problem is remedied, I was like, let me get Drex back on in here because I miss talking to that guy. So.
Oh yeah, he talks with Legal Mindset every now and then. They do the Pincast. So I mean, he's still on YouTube. He just we don't do his own show anymore. It kind of run its course, 2 years in.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Did you want to cover one of these 3 topics that I'm covering tonight? The 3 topics are Hunter Biden being charged, free speech, and whether it's okay to say to call for genocide, like on private property and stuff like that, on someone else's private property, whether that should be allowed. Or the third one is whether we should allow illegal aliens into our American military. Did you want to cover
the illegal? Yeah, we'll do the illegal aliens in military. If you don't know my racial heritage, I'm Native American Indian.
Get out of here.
So, yeah. So talk to me about illegal immigration.
So let's slow down for a second here. First and foremost, which tribe?
I'm not going to dodge the specific reservation I'm from, but I'm East Coast Mi'kmaq.
That's so made up. That's not a real thing. Okay.
Yeah, the Anglos refer to it as Micmac, but in our language we
okay.
Yeah.
So
we say the letters a lot differently.
So what do you think about the idea of America saying, "Hey, illegal aliens, come on into our military and come fight with us"?
I'm actually in support of it, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
We're clearly going to set aside the extremes of this conversation, right? So anyone who's anyone convicted for serious violent crimes, anyone who can't pass the psych, and those who can't speak English should clearly be excluded from this conversation.
All right, so no Mexicans, no no lunatics, and no hardcore criminals.
Right. And you'll notice I lurked on your political debate stream last night. If you don't know, I run that. I run my own channel now, Lost in Law.
Okay. Oh, that's you, Lost in Law. Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they're talking about how military recruitment is down. They're really hurting for people. Canada's got the same problem. And our military, we need a lot more than you do because we have less people, more land.
Yeah, but you also don't engage in foreign affairs at all. So
we are in every war America is in. Like,
yeah, but
Vietnam was the only exception.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I pay taxes too, but it really isn't that's really not what's covering the billions of dollars that are going in.
Right.
Like, so it's like the percentage of of troops that you're sending to foreign war compared to what America's sending in there is kind of like the difference in taxes between what I'm paying and what, I don't know, Amazon is paying. So
true. And we used to be a well-respected peacekeeping force. We were never considered the world police. We never occupied that role.
Right. So
and I mean, there is there's justification for that role in the world.
So you would be fine with folks who make their way all the way up to Canada, because I guess they'd have to be crazy broke, because I don't know why you would keep going past America and make it to Canada. But you would be you'd be okay with folks like that who can speak English and pass the psych test joining your Canadian military.
Yeah, not a problem. And in fact, we do have an illegal immigration problem. When Trump was elected president, a lot of Haitians fled up to the Quebec-Roxham crossing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw that in the news. So, I mean, it's not an unheard of thing for us. We don't get a lot of illegal immigration from the north border, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Because not too many Yeti are streaming across your borders, you're saying.
Yeah, so but yeah, it just and actually I'd take it one step further too. If you're illegal and come to America and you have kids in America, they should be given to the state in some role, cadets, boarding school, whatever, pay your debt.
Yeah, but see, can you understand the idea of people feeling like, I want someone who I feel like is genuinely patriotic, and I don't think that someone who just strolled across the border 10 minutes ago is a patriot.
I mean, okay, so again, we're leaving aside the extremes, but isn't the reason that most people come to America is because they want to be in America? In fact, I'd say they want to be in America more than most Americans, especially when you look at the college campuses.
Okay, and that's, you're actually touching on something that I sort of briefly touched on, which is an issue that comes up with Orthodox Jews a lot, where they'll be like, people have questions with respect to those who most practicing Orthodox Jews are religious from birth, and the word we use for religious is from. That's the word. So they're called like FFBs, like from birth. So I'm an FFB, meaning I was raised into a family that was religious before I was born. So as opposed to someone who comes to the faith who was not raised in a religious environment, who the Hebrew term for that is a Baal Tshuva, someone who comes to repentance, or they're referred to as BTs for Baal Tshuva. So the question always is, like, as far as how well someone who's a Baal Tshuva ends up meshing with those who are FFBs, because FFBs tend to, it's like you're sort of raised with a certain culture, and even on like small things like pronunciation of words and stuff like that, it just isn't like things are just like a little bit off and different. So there's sort of like, so you're talking as far as now in the Patriots. So there's a theory that many FFBs have about BTs, that it's like, no, they're more serious about it, because FFB, you're sort of socially, it's like it's expected of you, so you're sort of doing you're sort of fulfilling what you feel you have to do because that's the culture you were raised in. But someone who's a BT has chosen this. It's someone who it's like genuinely real to them, and they care about this, and in that sense they're more sincere about it than you are. So like why would you be judgmental about someone who's a BT? They actually genuinely care about, you know, the culture in ways that an FFB may not. And that's what you're essentially saying with these people who are coming to America. They value being an American far more than someone who's born as an American and may not appreciate those blessings.
And I'll give you another good example. So Canada and America, the way we treat immigration, totally different, right? You have to be qualified, you have to be educated to come to Canada to legally immigrate here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the familial reconnection program that's like the exemption. Anyways, Canada's Canada's the mosaic and America's the melting pot, right? In America, when you immigrate to America, you become American. In Canada, when you immigrate, you become a hyphenated Canadian. You're Arab Canadian. You're an Asian Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea is that people who come to America are expected to become American, to value things that America values.
Right.
And I think that is its own, it's like a very low threshold, but it's an easy one that catches the people who just don't value American values. And that's probably why they're going to America in the first place. Because it's a place where, we love to call the Biden family corrupt and everything, but compared to corruption in most South American countries, we don't even know what true corruption is.
That's a
right?
very low. That's a very low yardstick. Out of that, that's not making me feel any better about anything. Oh, at least we're not a banana republic. It's like, really? that's where we're hanging our hat on. Like, oh wow, we're not that level of corrupt. I don't like that, because that leads us down a road towards saying, well, as long as we're better than these other schmucks, then we're okay. To me, I don't generally accept that type of perspective.
At least you're not freezing a bank account for truckers. But that point only goes to the point that
you live in a banana republic. You do. I'm telling you right now, the freedoms that Canada is the canary in the coal mine for America, because
I said that. Yep.
They're one step ahead of all the tyranny that you guys live under. That's the road that we're being pulled down, and you're one step behind Australia. So it's like
4 years.
It's
4 years.
Yeah.
Anything we do here, you do it 4 years later. Same with the UK, 4 years before us. All right. So anything in the UK, 8 years from now is what America will do.
It's really sad. It's really sad. It's so pathetic.
So, and you know what? We spend more time telling people how we're not American. That's how much you influence our culture up here.
Mm-hmm.
We define our entire national identity that we're not America.
Yeah. Your Maple Republic.
Yeah. Soviet Kanakistan.
All right. I'm gonna grab a couple more calls before I get on out of here. I appreciate you reaching out, Tim.
Yeah, of course. Hey, and good luck with the show. Happy holidays and all that.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, brother. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. What's the area code I should be looking for? Tell me what area code I should be looking for. What area code? Put it in the chat here. Rumble. Tell me an area code I should be looking for. Let me check. Let me make sure in locals there wasn't anything. What do you got over here? 415? I don't see any 415s. We did used to have standards. What are you still doing up, Scott? I was thinking of Greg. Everything looks like Greg. I was thinking of Greg in Houston. All right. Should I wrap it up? I'll take one more rando. Then I'll get out of here. One more rando. Should I call this guy who called me? Someone called me like 47 times. I had one person call me like 47 times. A lot of phone calls here. It's a 412 area code. I actually had 2 from a 412 area code. It's called me a whole bunch of times. I assume it's probably the same person, right? It's got to be the same person. Should I just call him back? I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3. 23 calls from this. I'm getting a lot of no's. All right. I'm going to try it. Whatever. We'll try it. Uh-oh.
Hello.
Yeah, you keep calling me. You got a wrong number? Who is this?
No, Joe, this is Slap Murphy.
Slap Murphy!
Yes, sir.
How are you, Slap?
All right. How about yourself?
Awesome. Awesome.
Congratulations on the engagement, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Much obliged for that. Appreciate that. Oh, my gosh, I forgot to turn off my call. Wait.
What do you have to turn on?
My do not disturb. Oh, God. How do I stop that? I don't want to hang up on you.
Well, you can always call me right back.
I'm probably going to end up hanging up on you. Yeah, that's what happened. And it's still ringing. Good golly. That was suspected spam it came in as. All right, let me call you back. Wait, which one of you did I call? I think it was this one.
All fixed?
There we go.
All right.
All right. So what do you got?
Yeah, I when I served in the Army back during the Reagan administration, this was going on back then.
Illegals?
I served with a guy who was not a citizen, came from Guatemala, I think it was, and he had to complete his 4 years for his citizenship.
There's that's for green card people.
Right
now, what you're describing is a program that's already in existence, but people who have a green card and want to become citizens can serve for 4 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was not a citizen, and he said we were friends.
They first have to go through the process of getting a green card. The people who we're talking about bringing in now would not have to go through that process. That's the primary distinction.
Right, but I mean, it's not much difference than it was. I mean, obviously, the illegals that are crossing over, breaking the law right now, yes, but like dreamers and stuff like that they know are here, there's really not I mean, from my point of view, there's not much of a difference.
Right. And I see what you look. I definitely can understand a claim that it's like, how much more do you have to go through to get a green card than walking across the border? I mean, is it really that? But I think that with a green card, we're more easily able to vet them out. That's really that's the primary distinction for me, and I think vetting them out is an important element. Now, in other words, what steps would you have to take to get a green card? I haven't actually ever had to look into that because I never handled that element of law. How do I? Let me look.
Yeah,
I'm going to Google. How do I get a green card?
I'm sure the numbers right now are astronomical compared to the 80s.
How to apply for a green card? You have to be sponsored, and may vary. Green card eligibility. Let's see.
I wouldn't imagine it's very difficult to get sponsored.
Well, in order to get a green card, this is what you got to do. Green card eligibility categories. You get a green card through your family, which means you're a spouse of a U.S. citizen, unmarried child under the age of 21, who's a U.S. citizen, or parent of a U.S. citizen who's at least 21. That's like family. That's your eligibility. So that's family. Through employment, is if you are a first preference immigrant worker, meaning you have extraordinary ability in the sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics, or you're an outstanding professor or researcher or multinational manager, or a second preference immigrant worker is a profession that requires an advanced degree, have an exceptional ability in the sciences, or have exceptional ability in the sciences. I don't even know. So basically, you have some sort of special talent that you can offer as a worker. As a special immigrant, if you're a member of a religious denomination coming to the United States to work for a nonprofit religious organization, or a juvenile needs to protect the protection of a juvenile court because you've been abused, abandoned, or neglected by a parent. They have a special thing here for Afghani or Iraqi nationals. If you were an interpreter and if you helped the U.S. troops while we were over there. If you're an international broadcaster or you're an employee of an international organization, then they have refugees. If you were granted asylum at least 1 year ago or admitted as a refugee, human trafficking victims, victims of abuse, and then they have other general categories like a Liberian refugee, the Cuban Adjustment Act. I don't know. It's not that easy to get a green card. I mean, it's not like your regular, it's not like your typical coffee picker is able to just pick up and get a green card. From what I'm seeing here, you sort of need to have some relative who's here, who's a close relative. Otherwise, you're not just going to, or some sort of special ability in your work if you're going to get a green card. So it's not that easy.
Yeah,
it's not that easy.
I'm curious in California how many people have green cards that should not have.
Well, you're saying because they're a sanctuary city, so they don't need a green card if you're there.
No, I understand that, but like my daughter lives in California, and I know that she has talked about a lot of nannies that are working that have green cards that are not that like they don't have a special skill being a nanny,
right?
Like you're basically an illegal with a green card illegally,
Right. It does feel like the whole Biden administration is, and you get a green card, and you get a green card, and you get a green card.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, look, yeah, I hear what you, but I can understand what, here's a counter to support your perspective. The counter to what I was just saying is someone has a special skill. Does that mean that they're now more prepped to be a member of the army? Like that, what makes them now a more suitable candidate to serve in the army than someone who walked across the border? What? Because the guy happens to be a really good painter, really good artist painter. So now that's someone we should trust in our army. Like, how is that more of a make them any more qualified? But I guess there is some sort of vetting process.
No. I agree with your point there, 100%.
I would think you would. I was giving one in support of what you were saying.
But I also, though, I think everyone should have to serve. Period. I don't think there should be an exception. I think you should have to serve. If you have a disability, then you serve with a disability. You have a handicap, you're behind a desk or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like I think that everyone should have to serve. Period. And I think that would change a lot of things in this country personally.
Okay. All right, my brother. I'm going to wrap up over here. Thanks, thank you so much. I appreciate the call, Slap.
No, thank you for calling me back.
All right, take care. All right, I'm going to wrap my show up. I think it's time. It's time for me to go on my way. Tomorrow, I plan on being over on Layback News. That's where I'm going to be. So but you might not have the link. And if you want to get that link, the best place to do that is go to goodlogic.locals.com. And if you go there, good things are going to happen in your life. Like wonderful things will happen in your life if you do that. It's almost a guarantee that if you just need to sign up at goodlogic.locals.com. That's goodlogic.locals.com. The positive karma that will rain down upon you, I can't even fully account for it. I'm like, how does that happen? But apparently, rumor is it does. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a good weekend, and I'll be back here, God willing, on Saturday night. Until then, I urge you all, take care of yourselves, look out for your loved ones, make sure that you stay happy, and eat some bugs. Godspeed.